The world is not collapsing, it is realigning under pressure. And if you still think global politics runs on values or friendships, you are already behind. Chanakya warned us more than 2000 years ago. There are no permanent friends, there are no permanent enemies. There are only permanent interests. And today, that logic is reshaping the global order in real time. Hi, I am Tarak. Welcome to my channel, and I'm gonna tell you what's going on around the world and why does it matter. Just months ago, Europe was openly criticizing India for buying Russian oil during the Ukraine war. There were moral lectures, diplomatic pressure, and constant media outrage. Today, the same Europe is signing the largest trade and strategic partnership it has ever negotiated with India, the EU-India Free Trade Agreement, called as the mother of all deals. Is it hypocrisy? No, this is not hypocrisy. This is realism. And to understand why this is happening, we must first understand something most people confuse: the difference between hegemony and dominance. Hegemony is not simply power. Hegemony is leadership that others accept because it provides stability, predictability, and shared benefits. It is not just a great power, but a great power with a particular way of enshrining norms, institutions, and beliefs that incorporate the interests of the hegemon into the world's international system. As Robert Keohane explains, a hegemon shapes institutions, norms, and expectations so that others willingly operate within its system. Dominance is different. Dominance relies on coercion, pressure, and fear. It demands obedience instead of consent. All hegemons are powerful, but not all powerful states are hegemons. After the World War II, the United States built a hegemonic order, not just through military strength, but through institutions. The IMF, World Bank, NATO, the UN system, and a liberal trading order. That system worked because it offered goods, stable currency, open sea lanes, predictable rules, and crisis management. But hegemony begins to decay when legitimacy erodes, and that erosion is now visible. At the World Economic Forum in Davos, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney delivered one of the most revealing speeches of this era. He said something extraordinary. The rule-based international order is not transitioning, it has ruptured. Carney quoted Thucydides: "The strong do what they can and the weak suffer what they must." His warning was blunt. Middle and small powers can no longer rely on a single hegemon to guarantee stability. If they are not at the table, they will be on the menu. Yes, he said this. This was not an anti-American speech. It was a realist diagnosis. Thucydides says that ambition for dominance produces fear and resistance, as seen in the rise of Athens, which gave fear in Sparta. Because what we are witnessing today is not American weakness, it is American dominance replacing American hegemony. Look at the pattern. When the United States threatens tariff on allies, it is not leading, it is coercing. When a US president openly talks about taking Greenland by force, it signals unpredictability, not stability. When Washington intervenes in Venezuela, it is exercising dominance in its sphere. US is not building global consent. It is exercising dominance, exactly as John Mearsheimer describes regional hegemonic behavior. These are not signs of a confident leadership. They are signs of a hegemon struggling to maintain authority through pressure. And pressure produces balancing. This is why middle powers are quietly realigning. Europe is not abandoning the US, but it is no longer comfortable being independent on Washington alone. Europe is not also choosing China. In fact, European leaders have openly admitted that if China stopped shipping key industrial components, German factories could shut down within days. This is not ideology. This is economic survival. That is why Europe is doing two things at the same time: talking to Beijing to keep factories running and building alternatives elsewhere. That alternative is India. The EU-India Free Trade Agreement, it is not just a trade deal. The mother of all deal is a strategic hedge. By linking a 2 million person market, Europe ensures it is never held hostage by a single power, whether that power is US or China. For India, the deal reinforces strategic autonomy. India is not choosing sides, it is expanding options. This is pure Arthashastra logic. Chanakya never said that everyone is your enemy. That is not realism. He just said that there are no permanent friends or enemies for that matter. He said your neighbor is your natural rival, the Ari, and the power beyond your neighbor is your natural ally, the Mitra. For India, China is the immediate friction point. For Europe, China is a distant but overwhelming economic force. By connecting, India and Europe skip the immediate rival and create a strategic circle of friends. India gains technology, markets, and diplomatic leverage. Europe gains manufacturing depth, demographic strength, and Indo-Pacific relevance. This is structural realism in action. Now add another critical layer, China's internal instability. China has carried out one of the most serious military purges in its modern history. Senior commanders of the People's Liberation Army have been removed or placed under investigation. Recent reporting shows that President Xi Jinping has effectively centralized military decision making, leaving him as the dominant voice at the top of the Central Military Commission. In military theory, this is a red flag. When institutional debate is replaced by personal loyalty, decision making becomes faster but also riskier. A centralized, unquestioned military can move quickly, but it is also more prone to miscalculations. This matters directly for the Indo-Pacific. The South China Sea and the Taiwan Strait are already zones of constant naval encounters. A politicized PLA leadership increases the risk of the grey zone coercion. Aggressive patrols, maritime blockades, airspace violations, where one wrong move can escalate. Many analysts have linked this with Xi Jinping's intention of taking Taiwan under control. Whatever happens, it will absolutely not be in favor of a stable Indo-Pacific. At the same time, another pressure point is heating up: West Asia. US-Iran tensions are rising sharply. Iran has warned that US military assets in the region are within missile range. The United States has responded by deploying aircraft carrier into the region. Iran has announced live fire drills near the Strait of Hormuz, an important choke point through which nearly 20% of global oil exports pass. Any disruption that would send shockwaves through global energy markets and directly affect Asia, Europe, and India. Here is the strategic connection. If United States is drawn deeper into the West Asia confrontation, its military attention and resources are stretched. That weakens deterrence in the Indo-Pacific. And when deterrence weakens, revisionist behavior becomes more tempting. That is why middle powers are not waiting. That is why Europe is accelerating deals with India. That is why India is expanding partnerships without binding itself to any bloc. This is why China is consolidating power internally. And this is why realism has returned as the dominant language of world politics. We are no longer living in a world of friends and enemies. We are living in a world of permanent interests, strategic hedging, and calculated partnerships. The United States will remain powerful, but power without legitimacy does not sustain hegemony. It accelerates resistance. US used to take a moral and ideological high ground when acting on foreign land, but now the reality is what we call the real law of nature. The strong exercises power over the weak, and it's visible with our naked eye without any fake ideas blocking the view. It is naked truth. Mark Carney once ran the Bank of England, and he is simple and blunt when he says hegemons cannot continually monetize their relationships. Allies will diversify to hedge against uncertainty. They will buy insurance, increase options in order to rebuild sovereignty. He also knew how real the world is, and when he quoted from the Million Dialogue in the history of Peloponnesian War. This is why Canada did a deal with China and EU did a deal with India. That is what it is. EU-India FTA is an insurance. All the nations around the world have started to understand this. The world is not becoming anarchic. It is becoming multipolar, negotiated, and unforgivingly realist. Chanakya understood this long before modern international relation theory existed. Today, his logic is being practiced quietly in Brussels, New Delhi, Beijing, and Washington. The game has not ended. It has simply entered a far more dangerous and far more honest phase. And honest, not in a good way. If you like my take on what's going on around the world and why does it matter, like and subscribe.